Okay, so today I am bringing proof, bulletproof proof, irrefutable proof. The answer to end all the discussion on whether or not black men are worth any positive value or not. This is the meaning to life answer. It's the most important. It's absolutely correct and accurate and cannot ever be challenged. You have to be a bumbling idiot to disagree with what I'm getting ready to say. I'm getting ready to tell everybody the side that I believe in. Are black men worth anything good? Are they good people who deserve respect? Or are they derelict bums? Nobody's. A broken mold of a man with no soul or spirit. Which one? Well, I get to that at the end. That's an individual question. Different women have different personality traits. For some women, certain things that a man does is the best thing ever. That was sent from the Lord above. It's everything she ever dreamed of and wanted. Makes up for everything in their life. And for another woman, those same actions would be the cause of her own pain and struggle. It would be looking face to face at someone who is constantly reminding you of a down period of negativity in your life. So each one of those women will be on the other end of that continuum. To answer that, first we have to talk about what is a good black man, and then we can say whether it exists or not. So we each have our own judgment as well. To answer that question completely, it would never happen, but if we have to guess, we would go with the majority. The other side, I would love to say that they could still do whatever they want and they could just believe what they believe, but that would be division. And people don't really handle division very well, because if you're divided, it allows for the possibility of conflict. For example, if a person is one half of a set of twins, identical twins, right? You could look at that person, see yourself, punch them, and then you don't feel pain. It's separate and outside of you. But if you're looking in the mirror and you either try to punch your reflection, that's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt you and damage property. Or you can start like just trying to slap your own self, right? You still feel the pain. So you're not going to slap with all your might. Or either you will, and then that's a whole nother discussion that we would have to have. My point for that is because every time we have a disagreement in the black community, it's always two sides on which one they think is the right answer. And so if we are unified, you can't allow, like, conflict wouldn't happen. Conflict can only happen if you feel that you are separate and apart from the person that you're hurting. That's not actually true. We are not separate and apart from other black people. We're not clones. We're not a monolith. But we should be a unit that works well together. Because whatever you're doing to that person, you're now introducing that into the world. Whenever you think of some crazy scheme to get something you want and you take advantage of another black person to do so, you've now introduced this as a choice of behaviors. Nobody before you thought of that. I can't guarantee that anybody after you would have thought of it, but you are in fact now the one that introduced it. So at some point, the onlookers are going to feel like, well, you thought it was cool when you was doing it to somebody else, So why you can't handle it if somebody do it to you? It doesn't end well. So that's why I try to talk to us about unifying together and not always being separate apart on everything. This has been a running debate since, I believe, since we got civil rights. Because then you weren't forced to always say that somebody is doing the right thing, you care about them, whether you do or not. You weren't forced into a belief system and required to live by that same belief system. What does this have to do with the value of black men, right? Okay, well, because they're viewing black women as separate and apart from themselves. And that allows, it gives space for conflict to enter. They would be able, like you, if you punch somebody else, you can use more force because your own feelings of pain don't stop you. So when I hear black men that say, yeah, let's smut out women from lower income areas, let's beat down on single moms, let's belittle and berate married women who aren't doing every single thing with their husband in mind. The problem that I notice is that there are at times men who view women as in fact the weaker sex, but they don't have an overwhelming desire to cause you pain. They're not looking to abuse you. They might ignore you. They may not think highly of you, but there are men out there who don't wake up every morning with a plan to hurt black women. What happens to those men? It depends on who's outnumbering who. So the men who think like that, there's always, from what I'm told, in the back of their mind, a thought of, will they look stupid if this woman that they have decided to care about does some egregious offense that undermines his manhood? I personally don't think that the guy should have to feel stupid. I disagree with people that are telling that man that you're stupid because you cared about somebody. That's not the crime. The crime is not being the one that had emotions and was able to be strong enough to show them. The crime is the person that took advantage of that and used it as a weapon. That's who we need to kick out of society. So anybody that can't help black men to see that their emotion is not wrong. We have all these catastrophic thought processes nowadays. Let them fight for themselves because they didn't appreciate us. They won't listen to what we say. And y'all ain't talking about, are we listening to y'all? Meaning like, are we giving you an ear so that you can feel better and you can vent? Or are we interested in your day? Do we care about whether you live or died or whether you ate or got injured that day? That's not what y'all are referring to. Listening to y'all would be, that sentence describes what I just talked about. Submission means just following your rule. It doesn't mean that my every second is about that person. It doesn't mean that I'm willing to take a bullet for that person or die for them. It doesn't mean any of this extreme things that you guys are describing as part of your reason for why you don't think that black women are worth anything. Why you don't care what other race disrespects or abuses us. We're on our own because apparently we weren't listening to y'all. We weren't submitting to y'all. When women do all those things, you definitely let us know that the response to that is, yeah, that's cute. See, that's feminine stuff. What I'd rather you do is hand me a sandwich and be ready to fuck me when I come home. But silently, with no wants or thoughts of your own. Is that an exaggeration? Kinda. Not very far off. This is what those sentences that y'all say sound like. Y'all don't value the other stuff that we do. You're counting the seconds until you can get to the sexual intimacy part of the relationship. You're even willing to lie or skip the line to get to that quicker. And you want that out of women that you have no intention on interacting with them on the up and up. The reason we have a lot of women who feel like they don't have to bring nothing to the table but their body is because we got a lot of men that tell women that their thoughts don't matter, their feelings don't matter. Whatever else it is that you bring, I don't care about that. I'm trying to get to the box. It's what y'all literally ask for. There are some men that understand why that's a bad thought process and who also don't engage in that behavior. But which one is more popular? Which one do we have more of? So what would the world look like if that's what women believed, if they bought into that, if they feel like sex can answer anything? Well, you'd have a lot of women who, when they need something, that's what they use to get it. You have a lot of women who feel like they shouldn't have to do anything else because that's all you asked for. That's where that comes from. And then the cycle continues because they're devoid of emotion towards you because you said emotions were mushy. You didn't want to hear about it. So had you listened to the woman, you would have known whatever emotion it is right before she went and did the thing that was so embarrassing to you. Well, why does she have to do anything anyway? Because just because you don't talk to her about an emotion doesn't make it go away. Also, life goes on. If you don't have it and something is needed, you tell women that that's all they could ever do. So they go out there and that's how they get it and they bring it back. Or either they escape or they take things from you and leave. When you stop treating people like a human being, what makes you think that that's going to end well? If you treat someone like a robot, they become cold like a robot. That's if they lose the debate on trying to get you to see them in a different light. So it's a way to reduce cognitive dissonance. If you have a idealistic view of something, but reality is considerably less positive, one of those things you have to go, in order to be connected, to not have the same dissonance that confuses people and they have internal conflicts. In order to get rid of that, you combine them. You either completely fall into the idealistic thing and just, everything that comes with that, or either you run far away from that and go ahead and become what they called you. So when you tell women that that's all they're good for, if they buy into it, that's all you're going to get. But that's what happens when they stop questioning you. When they stop trying to work to change your mind. It means that now they've decided to just go ahead and buy into it. And that's going to be exactly what the person does going forward. So if something happens to you and they have to go get money somehow, that's how they're able to do it. Because it's what women were created for, right? Well, you can't benefit from it right now. So maybe somebody else can. So on the other opposite extreme of that, they amass a whole lot of accomplishments. There's the fighting and arguing. And eventually the result is still the same. If you're cold, just like if you're in a relationship and you're cold toward that person, when you go out and you meet other people, they don't have to respect your relationship. You get into these cloudy spaces, these cloudy waters where temptation is, and then you end up cheating on your significant other. And you don't care because you're a robot. So men yelling, and now all of a sudden going these campaigns to disrespect women because of what that woman did, but you don't mention that you didn't appreciate all of the feelings and everything before she turned into this robot designed only to steal your dignity and embarrass you and run your pockets dry. You can't, just because you want that to be a good thing, you can't make that a good thing. It goes against nature. You can't just force something because you would like it to be that way. And that's an arrogant thought anyway. It's arrogant. It's selfish. And it's not productive. So why would you expect anything? Who can literally, we don't have that in our DNA. To be happy that somebody tells us that we're not worth anything. I don't know anybody that could smile through that and be okay, let alone go looking for it. There are people who've been damaged and they accept it. And some of them even plan it and try to turn things into that. But they're not happy about it. It's not a fun thing. There's going to be some damage that comes along with the thought process of somebody that could sit through that. Why would you even expect, let alone try to require somebody to be grateful that they don't have a value to you, but stay every day and shun everybody else? It was meant to, and it is supposed to happen that you lose that battle. You're supposed to be being taught a lesson about pride. Because what kind of attitude would say that there's nothing useful about women? That you don't care if they die? Ignore them. Leave them out in the cold. There's all this talk about, do black women deserve protection? Okay. So since you're against women, you feel like we haven't done anything to earn that? Okay. So what do you think happens next? After they kill all of us, what do you think they're going to do to you? It's not going to be pleasant because they don't have to. And you won't even be stable because you're going to be missing out on that other half. Both things are needed, the man and the woman. In the past, that y'all like to bring up so much, the women were valued because it increases your numbers and it gives you more soldiers to protect your kingdom or whatever. It was a necessary action. Today, what's changed? Why don't we view black babies in that manner? So, is there any value to black men? Or are they all just a lost cause? My answer comes from men. Men tell me that all men cheat. It's to be expected. So if you are a man who has not cheated, it doesn't matter. Your counterparts say that you have. They don't believe you. And they're not going to let anybody else believe you. They need that to be true to cover up what they've done. So we talk a lot about women and how mean women are to one another. Men are as well. That's not a brotherhood. That's not a community of men who could work together. If it were true that all men cheat, this wouldn't even be a surprise. People would have stopped getting upset about it a long time ago. They don't think about other men in the community whose lives will be, ruined by them pushing the idea that all men cheat. They like to say that they're trying to create a world where women don't get so upset they don't leave if a man cheats. They view it as something that's wrong with them and their fault. And so then they stay and they don't even bring it up anymore. Life just keeps going like nothing was done wrong. If you feel any kind of hurt, well, that's delusional. You cannot stop men from being men because that is synonymous with the definition. The definition of men is sex with women. That's it. That's all y'all are. It's important, right? Well, I disagree. But the pushback I get on that is from men. It's self-serving. So then you get the pleasure of having your girlfriend cold because she's gun shy, doesn't want to get involved, doesn't want to give any feelings, because at some point it's not going to be enough. Other men, they tell you that they're trying to get this utopia where all the women just understand and don't judge them because of it. But that's not actually what they're doing. They're not thinking of a collective future. They're covering up their past. Since this person made a mistake, did something wrong, well, everybody else would have done it too. Everybody else probably did it. They just don't tell anyone. So you don't get to tell your truth. And what's worse, you're called a lame for doing so, for even doing the action, let alone telling people that you're a man who doesn't cheat. What do you get out of that? Is it about if people think that you don't cheat? Is it because now you are a person that keeps their word? What's the bad thing? What's the bad thing that you would be refuting by fighting so hard to say that not all men cheat? Is it something you're hoping for? That you would be able to get a good woman and they wouldn't have a problem opening up to you and you'd benefit with all of the bells and whistles that you are promised or told that you deserve? Well, that's not what comes from that. You get the side eye because not only are all the women who've been cheated on saying all men cheat because it makes them feel better, but the men who cheated, you're outnumbered. I do believe men are capable of not cheating in a relationship. But what I think is that they don't view it with the same high stakes emotional attachment that women do. They're trying to make women understand that for some of you, if they were cheating on someone to be with you, that it's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. I mean, we had fun, right? Everybody calls you names, and, you know, I'm leaving too, but, you know, it's all right because I had a want at that moment. They also believe that the girlfriend or the wife is supposed to just understand that there's always going to be some question, and the answer can only be found in the crotch of another woman. You're just supposed to understand that. This is just something that they try to fight against so much every day. It's so hard for them. Well, I think that that's an immature thought process. That comes from a thought process of you deserve to have everything that you see that you like. Literally, this is what men teach one another. You deserve it. You could work for it. There's nothing wrong with your wants. These urges are natural. No. The urge itself is natural, sure. But the frequency, the duration, the quantity is abnormal. When men are taught that their value lies in how many women they can sleep with, it stops them from thinking about what their life is supposed to be. They don't have a life anymore. They are now like a bloodhound or something, just sniffing out and searching out new opportunities to sleep with someone, not doing anything for themselves because it's time consuming. There aren't all these millions of women out there that y'all like to say exist. That is a myth. That is millions of women out there who would be willing to let you use them with no attachment. That's why they act up and go against the agreement that you made, whether they know the woman or not. So is that the only thing to talk about where, you know, whether or not black men are good or bad? No. That's just the most prevalent one, the one I hear most often. What about money? Rich men are better, smarter, responsible, deserving, and poor men aren't. That is what you teach one another. Get the money. Because you're teaching your daughter to chase the money. So the man that has the money gets the women. It's not always money. It also is about what that specific community values. So if it's a community where money is not the thing that everybody strives for, whatever it is, you're teaching your daughters to recognize it. And so men have to have it so that they can rank themselves and compete against one another. Of course, other men tell me negative things about being a man. There are a lot of complainers, a lot of men that complain because of their definition of manhood. The person who told you that that's the value of men, that's not a person that has your best interest at heart. That's not a good idea. It's not sage advice. Nothing good will come from that. Because at that moment, you don't exist. You're not a human either. You waste a lot of time. And so now, once you finally do calm down, you could have been enjoying the spoils of all your hard work, but you're not. Now you have to work. And it's going to take longer. And you're competing against the next generation's young people who understood that and started out their adult life in a manner that would be helpful to them. So then we have to listen to the whining and complaining about that. And nobody's ever supposed to say well, this could have been avoided had you done such and such. So the definition, when we say a real man would do this, if it doesn't fit you and your personality, why do you get to assume, and even if you don't really believe that, you get to say the words, that must have come from another woman, or either it came from a man that didn't have his dad in his life. That's not true. It probably came from her father, uncles, cousins, men before you who messed up. And those people had dads in their lives, because that's who was teaching them that it's the right thing to do to not settle down in your 20s. They teach you to not value picking one woman and raising all your kids until you're 30. Because there's this mistaken belief that young adulthood is for you to do whatever you want, to play around, not get any business taken care of. That's who's teaching those boys that. And if a woman is teaching her son that he needs to find a purpose, that he doesn't need to obsess over whether or not he's getting ready to have a woman in his life or be allowed to sleep with her quickly, it serves more than one purpose for us to teach boys to respect women. Because then they don't fall into that trap. They will be able to recognize the thought process that will be trying to coach them to give up their purpose to chase women. It's a distraction. So there's not this millions of women who just hand over their body and help you guys do whatever you want to. That is something that men tell women in an effort to do like after school special peer pressure. If men didn't have their thoughts always surrounded by sexual escapades, then they wouldn't lose money and opportunities behind women. You go that extra mile because you got to do something to put another notch on the belt so that other men will respect you. But they don't. They are, in fact, telling us all of the stuff that y'all get taught. And if they're lying, well, they do a good job of it and they're acting it out in real life. And then the people that overhear that are teaching their sons the same. So it then becomes true. That's what you guys are facing. That's what y'all are dealing with. Whether or not a black man is a good thing or a bad thing depends on your definition of black man. I have my definition. And so the people who fit that criteria would be good black men. What do we have more of in this country? Men who fit my specific criteria or men who don't? Honestly, the men who do. Black men are a good thing. Person. They have value. The deal breaker is if they can't find value in women. That would not be a good man. That's a dud. He does not help our culture. What's a culture that could survive if the women don't matter? If they have no value? What do you think happens to that? Other men around you aren't, they don't really feel like they owe you to not, try to steal something that you enjoy or you brag on. You're told that you're not allowed to get upset by other men. You have to just let them do that and accept it. You're not allowed to feel slighted by that person, because in my opinion, that is a person that anything that you get, they're going to want a piece of it. And if you choose to keep them in your life after that, whether you actually cared about the woman in that thing or not, doesn't matter. Deal with them separately for the separate amounts of betrayal. But that doesn't even have to happen. Because, y'all bathe your brain in all of this, all of the porn and the Instagram thoughts and people, half naked on social media. You have been told that there's nothing wrong with that. That that's a natural curiosity. Not for an adult. Once you are an adult and you know what that act is like and what it means, you shouldn't have this kind of childlike curiosity to see a bunch of people naked. What is that? Why do these women get so many likes on pictures? I'm not upset because I didn't get the same amount of likes because I'm not naked on my pictures. But why? The reason is because, let's say there's a group of men who do wake up and plan to have something along that nature in their day that day. And there are men who don't plan it but would not turn it down or walk away from an opportunity. That's not helpful. That means 2/3 of men, if we ever had a goal or a purpose as a culture, would place that at no higher than second on the priority list. Why would we condone that? Men and women alike. Who is teaching men that it's okay to do that? Yes, there are women that benefit from that. Yes, they don't have to. They're not being forced. They could do a different choice. That some of them can, some of them can't. Some will, some won't. Doesn't matter. Two-thirds of men would buy into that, so she would keep doing it because you believe that it's a good thing to have all of that in your brain, that's what manhood is. That's not the definitive action. At best, it could be forgivable or tolerable, but it should never be condoned and encouraged. Every second that you're paying attention to all of that is a second that you could have been doing something to improve the quality of your life. I will never understand how men get on social media, spend all that time searching out half-naked women, causing arguments and all of this, and then that night go home and complain that there's nothing in the world but sex, violence, and drugs and gossip that you helped to perpetuate and spread that day. What is so wrong with being able to walk away from that? It is designed for the very reason that y'all claim to hate it. That behavior is designed to get into your pockets. It's designed to control you. It looks like everything a man would want, right? Well, it's because it's supposed to look like that. I won't knock anybody's hustle, but I do feel like if you're paying money into that, then you need to deal with the consequences. Not only is that money and time and energy, but it has additional consequences too. It increases the likelihood that you're going out there now to plan to make sure that your day ends that way. It becomes the motivation. It's done that way for a reason. I personally feel like porn shouldn't exist. Because if you don't have time or resources to date women in real life, then you shouldn't even be watching it. If you're in a predicament or a position to go home and watch that, there's something in your life that hasn't been taken care of yet. Because anybody else will be out there and have access to it in real life. It also becomes more prevalent in your thought patterns and your speech. It infiltrates other memories and experiences. And then you bring it along for the ride and place it in additional experiences. At that moment, you can't complain that it's distracting. So when you get tired, when you're now done and you want women to straighten up, they're supposed to let go of everything else that they have been taught and everything that they were put through in order to get to a emotional and mental place where that's okay. Where you don't mind everybody seeing what you look like naked. Touching and grabbing and groping you for dollars. You're contributing to that. It wouldn't happen if there wasn't a market for it. So when you now want all of the women to straighten up because you've had your fun, what are those women supposed to do? Well, what they are going to do is cause a whole problem. When you treat people like they're not human, they act like they're not human. What stops us from murdering one another? Consequences. A tug at your heart. All of the rational, logical things. All of the thought process that makes us different than the animals we rule over. But if you're not letting her be a human, she doesn't have any of that. And now you're getting ready to get more material on why women are so bad. Why men do cheat. Why they deserve to be able to. It's the men telling you that. They tell us. They don't have to respect your position. They don't have to care. What they're getting at that time is what they want and all the men that have done the same behavior as them. Yours don't matter. Because you're not telling people that it's okay for what they did. Because you don't believe in it. And that's very admirable. And that's what we need more of in society, because then we'll be able to do things more logically. We might see some positive results instead of always having something that was thrown together at the last minute. There are also a group of men who haven't cheated but need to reserve the right to do so because they believe that it's possible for them to do so in the future. So you're outnumbered. Now, do I think that men who don't measure up in terms of like money and faithfulness, morality and all of that, do I think that they're worthless? No. They are a hindrance, but they're not worthless. They're not completely useless. They are a barrier, a roadblock, a distraction, but they could be useful when they get to the point that they want to stop playing around with all of that and get serious about life. Why does it take men till they're 60 and 70 to finally start taking life serious? And what I mean is not your job, not money, not competition. Human beings. That's what's important. That's who is going to be helping you. We're different from animals, and we get to be in charge because we're capable of seeing more than our instincts. I say that a lot. And the reason is because I just kind of feel like sometimes men need to be reminded of that they do have a choice. That your life doesn't have to turn out that way. And if you get somebody that played the game so well and they take advantage of you at the end, have faith that we as the community would not put up with and support that. That we're not going to reward bad behavior by saying that they did anything right when they did that. That does impact us all. We won't condone that. The few people that do are women who've done that and they think that same way as well. We got our own division. The general consensus this week has been women are useless. Really? Useless. That is very delusional. Because all of this stuff that y'all are complaining and whining is going to require women. If you feel like men who don't have degrees or aren't rich shouldn't have women, women are inserted in that. They're being a pawn. They're being a tool at that moment. Has a use, but it's not appropriate or helpful. If you want to know why we're not having babies anymore, you want to talk about abortion and out of wedlock births. Women are in that conversation. They were used for a fight between two types of men. So it's not only inaccurate, it's kind of childish. It means you haven't grown up and you have not come to the realization that neither side is going to be able to make it without the other one. I don't condone women telling people that they don't need men either. Neither side is going to be okay without the other. And even within genders, women against women, neither side is going to be okay. We need everybody. You can do all of this stuff with consenting adults. But when you don't have that opportunity for you to just sit around and watch somebody else doing it, and for the for the creepy people that if you walk past a gate or something or walk past an open window, you're just going to sit there and watch. That's like, I think that's too much. That's an excess. What are you going to do with these, with this memory now? Where are you going with this? How is that helpful? So I feel like it's too much. And then it creates the very thing that y'all claim y'all don't want to be labeled as. Not because you think it's wrong, but because then you don't get something that you want. Something has to be held back from you for you to, respect other people. I would address the same if I heard all week men are worthless. Well, I guess the last thing I have to say is I'll explain my view of all of this. The reason why I said it's childish is because, one, you do in fact need women. And second, even your description of why you think that's necessary is reacting to some perceived slight by women when they didn't do what you wanted. And so this sounds like a tantrum and giving up hope. not fit for leadership. You can't motivate anybody. Can't lead anybody to victory. Because you've written off the people that will work with you. You might get 1 or 2 people from a different race that are willing to work with a black man to get something, and then allow him to label it as for blacks. If a woman from another race helps you with something, they're going to want their culture to benefit too. So it's very rare that you guys are going to find what you think it is that you want. It sounds like storming off, slamming doors, because essentially that's what it is. Like if you are, playing with a toy and you have played with it, you like everything about the toy or the game or whatever, and then you one day get this bright idea, oh, it would be nice if this game did this. So then you try to make the game do that. That code is not written in there, and now all of a sudden the game is useless. You break it, you throw it away, it doesn't matter. Instead of finding a way to either get someone else to install it in there, suggesting an update, or doing it yourself. Those options never come into play for people who are saying that any group of people is useless. It's the easy way out. I'm not telling you that you have to stay. I'm not telling you you're obligated or required to do anything. But what I am saying is there is going to be a consequence. And if you have to figure out if you're actually going to be able to withstand that. But find a realistic consequence that you think is going to happen. Not just something that you psych yourself up to do it because you feel like it ain't going to be that bad. Or you think you can handle it. Think about what the true consequence of this stuff will be. And then decide if you can handle it. So in my opinion, black men are a good thing. But so are women. Neither side is useless. So I don't know if this is common knowledge or not, but if you're watching this, you can't say that nobody ever told you.